Administrating fitness tests. Before we did the fitness test, I collected information about the client and the sport that they play to know what was needed to improve their sporting performance. For example, Parser played netball and was goal attack position. The requirements of this are stamina, speed, agility and power, and he wanted to reach national level. The component of fitness that he wanted to improve the most was his speed. The components of fitness that I chose to test were speed, agility, aerobic capacity, power, flexibility and strength. To test speed, I did the sprint test for 20 metres. To test agility, I did the Illinois agility test. To test aerobic capacity, I did the yo-yo test. To test power, I did the vertical jump test. To test flexibility, I did the sit and reach test. And to test strength, I did the hand grip dynamometer. Before you participated in the fitness test, I did a health screening to check if there were any medical conditions that I didn't know about or that checked that nothing had changed since the last consultation. I also did informed consent to make sure he knew about the fitness tests that we were doing and consented to participating in them. We also gave some reasons to defer testing, which was if they are feeling ill, injured, there are any symptoms of current or past illnesses, they have an asthma attack or any difficulty breathing, or they have a high and irregular heart rate. They can also defer testing if they want to withdraw. I also did a risk assessment of the hall and the fitness tests to make sure that both the client and me were safe. The fitness test I selected to test the client's speed was the 20-metre sprint. I chose to test speed because it is an essential component of fitness for a netball player to have, because netball requires players to sprint across the court and get into space for the netball and get free of their markers. It is important to be quick, otherwise the players will not be able to get the ball. As the client is goal attack, they need to run up to 2/3 of the court, which is roughly 20 metres, which is why I chose to do a 20-metre sprint rather than more or less, because it is more relevant to their sport. The sprint test is easily available and so can be performed in the sports hall where I conducted the tests. It's also quick to conduct, so it doesn't take much time. However, it is not very valid because the sprint test is timed in a stopwatch by someone, so it is very likely that it was not an accurate measurement of their speed because it is subject to human error. This means that it could also rely on reaction times of a person timing, as they won't be able to start the stopwatch as soon as the client starts to run and stop it as soon as they pass the finish line. However, it would not have been possible to use a more accurate test because they are not available, so the 20-metre sprint test is the most realistic one that I could do, given the equipment that I had to use. To test agility of the client, I used the Illinois agility test. It is important to have a good agility to be successful in netball because it requires a lot of dodging around markers to get free of the marker and to get into space to retrieve the netball. There are a wide variety of tests for agility, but I chose this test because it is a good measure of agility needed for netball, because dodging around the cones can be related to what the client does when they dodge around players and opponents while playing netball. This fitness test is available because it only requires cones and a timer, so it could be conducted around the hall. It is also relatively quick. However, it has a low validity because it also needs to be timed on a stopwatch, which could cause the time that they run it in to be accurate, because the stopwatch wasn't started or stopped at the exact times that they started and stopped the test. When repeating the test, it also has a low reliability because it could be timed differently each time. However, it can be generalised to netball, so is relevant to the client's sport. It's hard to find a test that has a high validity because we don't have the resources for expensive equipment to time the test accurately. However, to improve the validity to the best I could, I made sure that I had a good view of both the start and finish line, so it is more likely that I stopped and started the stopwatch at the right time. I also improved reliability by making sure that the same person timed it each time. The yo-yo test measured the cardiovascular endurance of the client, and I chose this test because it is more generalisable to a game situation than the bleep test because that's a recovery period where they walk for 10 seconds between running, which is more like netball because they don't need to continuously run for the whole match. The yo-yo test has a high reliability because it uses standardised procedures and a recording to conduct the test. This ensures that the client was doing the test correctly because they only needed to follow the recording as everyone else does the same. This makes the normative data table more accurate as well because they would have performed the test in the same way. To test the client's power, I used the standing vertical jump, which is relevant to netball because players need to be able to jump to catch the ball. and the higher they jump, the more likely they are to retrieve the ball. This test has a high validity, which is why I chose it, because how high they jump is calculated by the equipment, so there isn't any human error involved. However, to ensure that the validity was as high as it could be, I had to make sure that the strap was secure around their waist so it didn't slip down, affecting the results, and also that the string was calibrated each time to 0. Flexibility is needed in netball because it helps reduce the risk of injury, such as pulling a muscle, which is why I chose to test flexibility. The test I used was the sit and reach test because this gives a measure of the flexibility of the hamstrings, which is needed in netball because there is a high amount of strain on the legs, as netball requires a lot of running around the court and jumping. This test is a valid measure of flexibility of the hamstrings, although it doesn't measure the flexibility of other parts of the body. However, it is quick and easy to perform, and the equipment was available for us to use. The last component of fitness that I measured was strength. This is used in netball when the players need to make short passes because they need to throw the ball as hard as they can. Netball also requires a lot of core strength because the client plays goal attack, and they may need to stand on one leg while shooting, and for this they need a lot of core strength for balance and also leg strength to stand on one foot. I chose a hand grip dynamometer test to measure strength because it gives a valid measure, and it is also reliable because the same procedure can be used each time, and the hand grip measures their strength the same each time. As lots of different areas of strength are needed in netball, the hand grip is a valid way of measuring strength because the muscle in the forearm is seen as an accurate representation of overall strength in the body. These pictures show us when we are performing the tests. In the 20 metre sprint, the client scored 3.41 seconds. As there weren't any 20 metre sprint normative data tables, this is one for 30 metre sprint, which is more common. However, there wasn't space in the hall where we were conducting the fitness test to perform a 30 metre sprint test for speed. The average for a 30 metre sprint is 4.4 seconds, and as 2/3 of 4.4 is 2.9, the estimated average for a 20 metre sprint is 2.9. This means that the client speed is slower than average, which is portrayed in the graph because it took longer to run 20 metres than the average 2.9 seconds. This definitely needs to be improved because good speed is an essential component of fitness needed in netball. It is also one of the components that the client felt that they needed to improve on the most. One way to improve their speed would be to make sure that they're using the correct technique, as this can change how fast someone runs. A reason why they might not be running as fast is because the techniques that they are using are wrong. The correct technique includes a combination of all parts of the body. For example, the shoulders to remain straight and avoid lateral rotation, as this wastes energy. The knees should be lifted forward and up to generate more power. They should also have long stride lengths to improve their speed, and arms should be right angled and drive forwards to a shoulder height. Once they have learnt the correct technique and practice running like this, they can practice sprinting using the technique on the netball court in game situations, where they need to run for the ball and across the court. In the Illinois agility test, they completed it in 14.7 seconds, which is excellent for males, so it doesn't need to be improved anymore. However, there are lots of different tests for agility, so I would recommend participating in a few more of these fitness agility tests to see if there are any other areas of agility. For example, moving side to side because the Illinois agility test only focused on weaving between cones, to see if any of the other areas need to be improved. However, it's still important to maintain this agility during netball games, so to do this, they can either during netball training or additionally training, they can do netball related agility drills. For example, a court agility drill where the players must sidestep around the D, jog to the centre third, then sidestep, jog forward and repeat to the end of the court. They can also zigzag across the court and around cones to mimic players and repeat the drill again as shown in the diagram. As their general agility is excellent, this will allow them to practice in relation to the netball court and become familiar with how to move around their netball court so in matches they can use their agility successfully. In the yo-yo test, the client ran up until level 14.2 before they failed to reach the line after their warning, which adds up to around 520 metres. This is considered below average for males as the average is 1,040 metres or level 16, suggesting that the client has a poor VO2 max. It is important to improve this because netball requires a lot of cardiovascular endurance, as the games are around 60 minutes long with only little breaks in between. As they don't have a good cardiovascular endurance, then they will struggle to run for the whole game, and they may have to come off for one quarter to rest or not play for the whole match time. To improve this, they will need to partake in exercise such as long distance cycling, swimming and running, running being the most effective because it relates to netball having to run around. They could also attend a dance class such as aerobics, as this is a more fun way to improve stamina, and by joining a class it makes it more likely that they're going to go regularly, for example once or twice a week. By doing this, it will also improve their netball performance because they'll be able to carry on without tiring, which could cause them to not perform as well. They will also be able to stay on the court for the full time of the match. On the standing vertical jump test, the client achieved a jump of 46 centimetres, which is in the high end of average for males. So this doesn't need to be drastically improved, however, there is still room for improvement in their power. Being a netball player, the client needs to be able to jump high to retrieve the ball, so the higher they jump, the better their performance will be. As a client is a goal attack position, it is also important, even more than normal, to be able to jump, because if there is a rebound shot off the hoop, they'll need to jump to get the ball before the opponent does. To improve their power, the client should participate in plyometric training, as this includes jumping exercises that improve power and therefore how high someone can jump. Plyometric training can include box jumps, skipping, squat jumps, and any other exercise that involves jumping. I'd recommend doing this type of exercise training twice a week. It can be done during the netball session or as a warm-up, and can also easily be done at home as it doesn't require any equipment. The client's flexibility is below average because they only scored 23 centimetres on the sit and reach test, the excellent being almost double at around 45 centimetres and the average for male teens being 26 to 29 centimetres. This can be problematic because if someone is inflexible, it increases their chance of injuring muscles, tendons and ligaments, and can also restrict their range of movement, therefore limiting their performance. Some other benefits of increasing the client's flexibility include reducing muscle tension and freer and easier movement. Although strength stretching in a warm-up before participating in netball will improve their flexibility and range of movement temporarily, to improve their flexibility long-term, they will need to also stretch after exercise because their muscles are warmed up and more receptive to stretching. They should do stretching exercises that stretch their whole body, for example, lunges, calf stretches and quadricep stretches to stretch their legs, and shoulder circles, arm swings and neck circles to stretch their upper body. Each stretch should be held for around 30 seconds twice, and the client should perform these stretches every day to improve their flexibility quickly. This will be possible because short stretching sessions can be done in around 10 minutes, and then they can do longer stretching sessions when they play netball. This picture shows some of the exercises that they can do to improve their overall body flexibility, which will improve their netball performance and decrease the risk of injuring themselves while playing in a match. On the hand grip dynamometer test, the client scored 51, which is good for a male their age, almost excellent, and with a little strength training they will be able to get in the excellent zone for strength. Strength isn't one of the main components needed for netball, but nonetheless is useful and needed in some ways. For the position the client plays, goal attack, these are core strength for balance and leg strength for standing on one leg while shooting, and also arm strength for making short, powerful passes, as well as reducing the risk of injury. So these are the areas that I'll recommend to maintain their strength levels and improve even more. This should be done through strength training. To improve their core, they can do activities such as sit-ups and crunchies, and to improve their arm strength for the passes, they can do press-ups and weights if they have them, or they can sign up to a gym. To improve their leg strength, they can do squats and things like that.